Okay, we are recording. So I love that we have a tiny group because then we can really all talk and chat and ask questions. I am going to record it. We are recording now. And I will ask you, if you're not speaking, if you could just put yourself on mute. I do expect that we're going to have some other people jumping in, but sometimes, it gets a little noisy in the background. And, I just want to be respectful for Deb and Pam, who are presenting today. So also we'll encourage you to put your questions into the chat. You can put them in the comments. We'll make sure that we all get to answer them. And if our group stays small, we'll just ask them live at the end of the presentation. So I don't know if my team knows this, but I have a real warm spot in my heart for the plus size business. And the reason is that my first job, when I worked at Macy's, my first experience on the floor was the department manager for Macy Woman. And they called it Macy Woman. I think they still do. And my department, I also had infants, toddlers. I had all those weird special sizes. But my department was not in the Macy's store. Unfortunately, the store I was at, which was in Monmouth, New Jersey, had space limitations. So they put the kids department, they called it the annex. And in the annex, which you couldn't access from the main store, to walk down the hall, around the corner to get to the kids department. And in the very back was Macy Woman. So how humiliating and sad was it to go shopping for clothes? And by the time they got to me, I had some mighty unhappy ladies because it was hard to find. And the department was, it was small, and it was, I would say it was crammed full of product because we had a great business, but there just wasn't enough space for all of the clothes. And I'd look and see the beautiful clothes that were in the women's department, but the brands weren't in, we didn't have them in the sizes. And what I also found is that when you developed a relationship with that customer, she was loyal. She spent more money than a Missy customer. When she found something that fit her and made her feel good, she bought all of it. And it was a great place to learn, ready to wear and retail. And then I went on when I worked at QVC to buy plus sizes until they merged it all into, one, which I think was brilliant. And they did it early on, and they still do it. There's really anything you buy there is in, size small or extra small, all the way up to 3X. So when Pam reached out to me a few weeks ago to talk about diversity and plus sizes, I was really excited to host her and Dev and to have this conversation because there are ways to market and be very, very successful serving her needs. So Pam and Dev, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you should be able to share your screen.
Is that visible by everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And thank you so much, Karen, for that introduction. I actually, your team, myself, I didn't know that you had a background in curve market and plus size market. And it's exciting to see that, somebody like yourself who was at the forefront of the movement understands the importance of integration when it comes to the curve market on the sales floor, understanding how it makes somebody feel that they have to actually remove themselves from a location to go somewhere else to find something that's suitable for them. So thank you so much for the work that you've done in the past, in the present, and that you'll continue to do in the future to advance this market. And thank you everybody else for being here as well and for listening to this important topic and for what Pamela and myself have to say. Actually, Pam, I will turn it over to you to make our introduction.
Terrific. Hi, everybody. I thought maybe I would give you a few minutes about who I am, and then I'll hand it over to Dave for a second and give him, I allowed him 2 sentences because I'm doing 2 sentences. Because we only have we have a really jam-packed presentation, and we don't want to take too much of this type of time. I just want to tell you about the Shainhouse Group. The Shainhouse Group is a division of Alley Style Incorporated. And Alley Style Incorporated is a fashion brand that I founded with my late daughter, Allie, in 2006. And we were a size inclusive brand. We went from an extra small up to a 3X. We were made in Canada, and we were made from sustainable product. We were, as I say, which is a terrible pun, we were way ahead of the curve, and a lot of people didn't understand us. But the best part is that it gave me the initiative to be able to branch out and start a consultancy that deals with diversity, equity, inclusion, not only in the fashion marketplace, although that's our sweet spot, but basically showing brands how important it is to be size inclusive and to be respectful of this demographic. And just as a little extra, I guess this is more than 2 sentences. I guess a little extra, we just won the best fashion consultancy in Canada in diversity, equity, inclusion, an award. So there we go. Dave, you got 2 sentences.
Thank you very much. My name is Dave Ramsmer, currently with the Shainhouse Group, and my background actually extends in equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging within the media, fashion, entertainment, and arts sectors. So for the last 23 years, I've worked with brands across the board, mostly in luxury menswear, in arts and entertainment. So I've never really focused on the women's market as much as I have in the men's luxury market, and looked at areas of size inclusivity, accessibility, inclusion, diversity, equity, and belonging within the LGBT community and within the BIPOC community. Fast forward 23 years and I'm still on that topic, still making positive, transformative social change, I hope, and working with other arts-based institutions and trying to now make change with municipalities across the world to understand the importance of arts and culture, the economic importance of arts and culture within our communities.
So
thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. So I'm just going to bring it back to this major statistic that brands and retailers seem to be ignoring, is that 70% of American women, we're talking about close to 3/4 of the market, are a size 14 plus. And then that major percentage is a size 16 to 18. So we're basically saying that close to 3/4 of the market is within this size 16 to 18 marketplace.
So understanding that market in the plus size or curve market, this is taken from Sujay Sitharaman in 2020. So actually this is just this year's statistics. $180 billion in 2019 is the market that we're looking at when we address the curve or plus size market. Of that, 21% of plus size women report spending $150 more each month on clothing, shoes, and accessories compared to 15% of straight sized women. 81% say that they'd spend more on clothing if they had more options in their size. And 88% say they would buy clothing if more trendy options were available in their size. Now, the issue facing the consumer, 77% of the 70% marketplace agree that it is difficult to find well-fitting garments. 46% of that 70% market say they never or rarely find flattering clothing. 73% of that 70% say sizes are very inconsistent across the brands. and 49% across that 70% say they often need tailoring to get the right fit. Now, this is very interesting because, again, we are looking at a global market of $180 billion that is not being tapped, all because of size. Here we can see in the US, the women's plus size market is stretching to almost over 25 billion by the end of 2020, it's what they predict. In the global marketplace, we can see right now it stands at 24 in the US, 4.8 billion in the China market, and 151.2 billion in the rest of the globe. So according to the Business of Fashion, a McKinsey study that came out just recently, I'm sure you must have heard of it, the state of fashion. Economic profit will have fallen by 93% in 2020 after having raised 4% in 2019. What that translates to and what they're saying in this study is that a significant increase in the number of companies are value destroyers or will become value destroyers. And that's in juxtaposition to becoming a value adder. So they will become value destroyers, which they expect will rise to 73% of those in the index in 2020 compared to 60% of those in 2019. So what that stat actually means is that as a result of this COVID and where companies are seeing themselves fall in revenues, companies are looking at offloading what they consider to be fringe and looking at keeping with their core business, no longer being a value add company that adds on accessories, that adds on plus or curve size, or that adds on children's wear. They're looking at cutting off all the fluff and focusing on their main market, which now makes them a value destroyer. I'm going to turn it back to Pam for a case study.
Thank you, Dave. Dave is always great with all the statistics. Now I get to the meat and a lot of this.
She means to say I'm boring.
Pardon me?
To say I'm boring.
Boring? Yeah, well, I'm not going there. Anyway, I'm going to take a case study here, and this is a company called Fashion to Figure, and it's run by the Kaplan brothers, Michael and Nick. And they, just as an interesting fact, they happen to be the great grandsons of Lane Bryant. Lane Bryant, who started, I think all of you know who Lane Bryant is with regard to the plus size stores and the work that she did as a pioneer for bringing in this demographic into the market. So Fashion to Figure is decided that even though they are also a major player in the field of apparel, that they were going to become a whole package. And a whole package meaning that they were going to sell accessories, they were going to sell jewelry, they were going to sell anything that was going to be helpful to this plus size market, to the size inclusive market. So we're going to take this case study of shoes. And we all know that, if you can go back for 1 second, Dave. We all know that when you are somebody who is larger, you're proportionately larger all over. It's like I remember going to Bloomingdale's once with my brand, Alley Style, and they pointed out that they had a very similar similar brand to what we were selling them. And we basically said that, no, you don't have that similar brand. And you don't have that similar brand because you don't take in account the arm length and the arm width and everything that has to happen to a plus size person. That obviously your shoulder width is larger, all of these. So that's so that I'm taking that to shoes, obviously our feet are wider. And very, very few brands actually acknowledge that. And I know of Stuart Weitzman that they actually have different widths, and Fashion to Figure is selling this. So, okay, now we can move on to the next one. Dave? And Nadia Albusen, and I'm hoping that I am pronouncing her name properly, plus size model, decided that she was going to attack the issue of wide boots because a plus size woman has got thicker calves, and it is next to impossible, take it from me, it is next to impossible to find boots in the regular market that would zip up. So she decided that she was going to partner, and she partnered with Nick Kaplan at Fashion to Figure, and they developed a whole line of wide width boots. And now with the new lingo is that they say wide width boots exclusively designed for thicky thick legs by Nadia. And that's a new way. When Dave told me that, and I thought I knew everything about the plus size market, I went, excuse me, because I hadn't heard of that, but I had heard of the way women are taking back the word fat and saying we are fat and we're very proud of it. Gen Z are accepting who they are and saying we accept that we are whatever weight we are, and we want the brands to accept us also. So this is new, thicky thick, and I guess there's no way that you can forget that, and I will always remember that. So thanks, Dave, for telling me about that. So I'm going to continue into the case study about handbags and belts. And handbags, of course, when you're talking about a crossbody or you're talking about a shoulder strap, people who are taller need a longer strap. People who are larger need for crossbody a strap that will go over their chest instead of just sitting right at the top of their breasts, and they don't come down. It's very, very disconcerting when you've got this purse and it doesn't stay exactly where you want it to. And very few people acknowledge that. I personally had an issue, and I'll do that for the next slide, but we see that Philip Lim knew that he needed to address this. So he has put together different size straps, small, medium, and large. You can order whatever strap you want, and there is no additional cost to the longer straps. Yay. So, which is great. It is, yay. Finally, somebody's going to say, we don't have to pay more. You don't have to pay more because you are a larger woman. And don't even start me on when apparel fashion brands are charging more for plus sizes. I'm not even going to go there because that's another conversation, because it just makes me nauseous that they do that. So let's move on to the next one. Red Orbis belt bag. And I love this. You can see that there are attachments that you can purchase. You can see that, you know what? Nobody ever calls me. But when I'm on these type of things, this is when everybody calls me. Anyway, you can see that there's an addition to the belt bag. And you can just request it. Again, no extra price. I have a really sad story, at least it was sad to me, when I went out and bought my first Longchamp belt bag, spent a significant amount of money, was Longchamp. And there was a period of time that I was very ill, and I bought it when I was ill, so it fit me. Then I became better, and I went back into the size that I was at, and I couldn't get it around me. So I went to Longchamp, and what did they do? They only said, well, here, the most we can do is hand you this extension. Now, the extension was a totally different color than my bag. So now all I can do is wear the bag over my shoulder, like right under my shoulder, because it doesn't fit me around my waist. So these are, when you spend a significant amount of money for a belt bag, you would hope that it would fit you. So this is something that I'm hoping somebody, well, maybe somebody out in Longchamp in the universe are listening to what I'm saying. So this is a great example of a company that offers their extenders in large, extra large, extra, extra large, and 3XL. Dave, on to you.
Thank you. And I'm going to use a case study of one of my favorite brands, actually. I'm actually a collector. And this is Swarovski on behalf of the jewelry industry and how they can adapt themselves for the curved market. Swarovski has done something very ingenious. As you will be able to see here, they have actually created extenders that look like the necklace itself. So it doesn't look like an extender. It comes in all three colors. So it comes in the copper rose gold, comes in the yellow gold, comes in the white gold or silver tone. And they actually match your item. They come in 2-inch lengths and they are free with purchase of any Swarovski. You can also get as many extenders as you need for your necklace to fit properly. Of course, in 2-inch intervals. The next is the Swarovski magnet, which I think is another great creation. As you can see, one of their most popular selling bracelets is a magnet clasp. So that actually works for anybody with accessibility needs who has a hard time actually connecting a bracelet together, opening and closing a clasp. As you can see in their second most popular bracelet, the leather strap or the leather cuff, also a magnet clasp, and also their newest collection, the Remix, which are, I'm not sure if you can tell by the image here, but each one of the
Hi, my name's Nawar with
Swarovski ornaments on it are actually magnetized, and so you can extend it further and further to make a long lariat necklace, to make a double or a triple.
Oh, hi, Yolanda. How are you?
One bracelet. Now, just to share with everybody, wanted to know if everybody understands exactly what we're talking about and the work that we do here at the Shainhouse Group. We're always here to help you understand further the topic of size inclusivity. I'd just like Pam to talk about that for a moment.
So it's really interesting how I have moved from having a brand to my passion that I have about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how I was able to meet somebody else who has such a distinct passion in this work. And the work that we're doing at the Shainhouse Group is we can work with your organization to train and educate your team on size inclusivity, on inclusion and diversity, on accessibility, on which is a huge area now with adaptive fashion. And we can work with your group and consult and train and create strategic plans to reach this market. This is a demographic that is not going away. We don't have to discuss what's happening with the Black Lives Matters and with everything that's happening within the DE&I community. We're not talking about that at this particular time.
Literally going to send you an email.
Can everybody mute them? Thank you. But what we are talking about is a demographic that Karen has worked with, that I am working with, and that I started with. The reason that I started this brand was because I also, as a curved woman, could not find clothing. My daughter could not find clothing, and we felt that we deserved the best clothing ever. And we feel that everybody deserves accessories that are going to fit them. Hats, we didn't discuss hats at this time, hats that have a wider, a larger width, a larger brim. And in all of these, I'm not a hat designer, so I'm not sure what the word is, the proper word for the inside of the hat, to make sure that it fits your head, not something that every hat that you put on doesn't fit. And talk about jewelry and talk about all these areas that have to work together with fashion brands to show that they accept this demographic. This demographic is not going anywhere. And it's going to get larger because it's just the Gen Zs, millennials, they are accepting who they are. They're not handling the issues of body image are starting to go down because people, the men and women, are accepting that this is who they are. If they want to lose weight, they'll lose weight because they choose to do it. And so we believe that a fashion brand, that an accessory brand has to come on now, especially when you go back into the way it's going to be, because things are going to change, things are going to open up. As you can see, they are opening up in the States. Unfortunately, in Toronto, where we are continuously in a lockdown. So we're not opening up too much here, but they are opening up. And why not do it? And why not add these areas onto your brand that will show that you accept the world of diversity and inclusion, and you are going to provide for this market. So that is just a little diatribe of how important it is. And of course, as some of these people who are on the call right now know that if you start me talking, it's very difficult to shut me up. So I'm going to move over to Dave. And this is me, sorry. We're going to go on to the next slide. Okay. And we thought we'd put in 4 tips to make positive change, because these are the major areas of concern that are so important to recognize. Dave? Oh, me. Boy, I'm telling you. Number 1, we understand the negative effects of imagery. And I'm going to read this, even though I don't like reading things because we can all read. But the images we perpetuate create negative mental health effects on society. Mental illness, social anxiety, and stress is on the rise with all of the images that we see, where they use a curve. For example, they use a curve actor, use a mainstream actor, and they put a fat suit on top of them, and that's who they hire. Use a curve actor for promotions and for campaigns. It's so important to use the people who are part of that demographic. I know that many brands do not acknowledge this brand because they believe that it's going to look negatively on them, but instead it is the complete opposite. It's a positive thing to do. Dave? Dave? Did I lose Dave?
So something else that's very interesting about the curve market is that the discrimination against this market in terms of understanding the economics of it. Most people do discriminate against this market understanding, or with the false understanding that this is a market that doesn't have the actual economic power to back them, to be a purchaser, to actually be a viable consumer. So the stigma and public perception show that curve needs are perceived as lower income. To change this, we must further advance these groups. And so now we're not only talking about the public perception, we're also talking about within the workplace. We know that curve individuals are often turned up for promotions in the workplace in favor of straight-figured individuals. So by providing equal opportunity and encouraging advancement into management positions, which allows that said management to have their voices heard at the table within fashion brands, within television, within film, media, advertising, allowing those curved body types into those positions would then give them that platform.
And just very quickly, we believe that policies have to come into place. That an accessory brand has to realize the importance of building this accessible, whether they want to do it as they add on to an adaptive fashion brand, whatever way they want to be part of it, it's important. And retailers have to develop policies where creating policies in the workplace and towards your clients engage in the process of discovering that the exact barriers that need to be removed, they need to be addressed, and procedures are needed to encourage this safe and healthy work environment. So this happens with anywhere. And the reason that we're highlighting this is to hope that we can make sure that we don't go back to the way we were, to make sure that accessory brands, the fashion brands, for accessory designers who are also fashion designers and apparel designers, understand the critical importance of this demographic, because it is a critical importance. It's important to have your designs on a model that, whether it's on a plus size model, to show that the accessories fit the model. So these are all policies, and I believe that this is really critical.
And last, think inside then outside the box. So our fourth step to making positive change is reflect on what actions you have taken that further marginalized curved persons. What actions can you take to bring them into the fold and include them in decision making, rather than being told, this is your role? This is a market who has often been told, this is what you're going to wear because this is all that we're going to make for you. Not looking at the fact that this is $180 billion of purchasing power and decision-making power that we can look at and say, maybe it's time that we look to the consumer to dictate what we should be creating for them with their needs, their wants, and their desires. So I want to throw out a few questions just to start some discussion before we get into the Q&A portion. And I want to throw this out to the group here. So what factors affect growth of the plus size women's clothing industry in the US? Can anybody sort of take a guess? And feel free to unmute and just speak up. No need to discuss it in the chat. And the second is, what is the biggest opportunity for growth in the plus size women's clothing industry within the US?
And of course, we're also talking about the apparel industry too, which is not the apparel, I'm sorry, accessories. I think I need more coffee.
We have a shy group. I think maybe everybody needs a little coffee on.
Yeah, I think that we just put in so much into this panel discussion, into this,
Well,
another cup of coffee.
I will tell you that I must wonder if stores just, they don't have the space, or they don't have the buyers, or they don't have enough units to command that their designers cut some of the styles in plus sizes. I'm not really sure.
I think that is really important, but I can give you an example. First of all, I think you have to brand it. I think you have to announce it. I think you have to tell your consumer that you provide for this market. I will give you an example of something that is happening here. I'm sure that it's happening in, well, I don't know. I think maybe it's better in Nordstrom in the States, but in Nordstrom in Canada, they have, and I know in Nordstrom in the States, they've done the same thing. They've integrated their plus size apparel in with mainstream fashion. They've eliminated what they call their encore department, and they've integrated it, which is really one of the best ways to be able to do this. So if you're doing it, so they're integrating accessories that are also there. So somebody can go and say, do you have I'm a plus size woman. Problem is that there isn't one plus size mannequin anywhere. They haven't trained their sales staff. I was actually at a concierge. I was actually listening to somebody go up to the concierge and say, do you carry plus size clothing? And the concierge says, I'm really sorry, but we have eliminated our plus size department. So instead of saying, yes, we do, and I would love to bring down a salesperson and help you, that person turned around and walked out. So you have to be able to brand it. You have to be able to tell your market that you are providing for them. Because if they don't know, how are they going to be able to purchase there? They're going to walk out. And if they don't see it, for sure they're going to walk out. So it's very important to be able to walk their talk and to be able to do that, because I think that is critical to the way this market is. If you were a plus size woman and you walked in to numerous of these stores like Nordstrom, and you take a look at these very thin mannequins, you're going to figure, and you don't see anybody who represents you, you're going to figure that you don't exist there.
I'd like to add something, Pam, if that's okay. Can you hear me?
Is that my buddy Milton?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
You know, this reminds me a little bit of, you know, over the years, I married someone who was petite. And I remember that we used to shop fervently at Saks Fifth Avenue until they eliminated petites. And so to me, it's more about just acknowledging that we're all different sizes, right?
Right.
Like, I have no hips, period, okay? And I'll be blunt to say I have no butt. And then I try to get pants that fit me and it's ridiculous. So to me, it's about really recognizing that we're all built differently and that sometimes we're built differently at different times of our lives. Sadly, after I had an ailment, I gained 20 pounds. And so, and the way I gain weight is I look like a lollipop, right? Or like a pear, right? With two little sticks of legs. And so my point is that I think that opening up the industry to acknowledge that we're all human and that we all come in different sizes, and that, of course, we want, you know, off the shelf stuff, but also that we may need custom made stuff. There's nothing worse than going to Brioni and going back 3 different times because they got and I know it sounds like, oh my God, really? You would be complaining about that? But I've heard clients of Brioni who are getting custom made products for, you know, $15,000, $20,000 suits complain about how the process was so tedious because they failed to get the measurements right several times, right? Open up the shoulder, open up the middle, because the gentleman was definitely not built like The Rock. And even The Rock probably has to have custom products. So you know, while the fashion industry is opening up now to many things, this is certainly, I think, one of the things they need to open up to. And I guess one of the final point I would make is that maybe it's not about calling people this petite or heavy or whatever the words are, but to acknowledge that we do make different sizes and we even have custom sizes or you know, what's it called, made to measure, because people are different. And so I think, you know, the fashion industry for many years, of course, didn't acknowledge that. You can understand why they might have this sort of perfection standard, but nobody could ever fulfill it. So now I think brands are more open, and I think we just have to help them find the product and the language, and really talk to individuals who are shaped differently, who have felt maybe marginalized previously, and then begin to speak, as you say, with empathy and with emotional intelligence and kindness in their language, irrespective of what they are. You know, I have a 15-year-old who thinks he's too skinny. And believe me, I know that it's working on his mind because I was there when I was 15 years old. So there's all kinds of dynamics. And I think it's about a process in which we address human beings and acknowledge them for who they are, as you say, you know, and maybe call
Thank you.
they want to be called, you know, I mean, you know.
I agree with you, Milton. I'm sorry, did I just cut you off?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Lots of my apologies, but
No apologies, because you basically are saying everything that I have been telling you for for the past couple of years. The issue is that, you know, it's very interesting. I'm from a manufacturing family. My father had the largest manufacturer of children's wear in Canada. And my father taught me that he said to me, he said, you know, Pammy, there is no size God. There is no God up there that says that this is exactly the way this size is. It's exactly the way that size is. He says, you try something on, and if it fits you and you like it, you buy it. If it doesn't fit you, you get a bigger size or you get a smaller size. He says, but a size should never be the important part about how you're buying a product. And that's exactly what he taught me. And yeah, I will go off the, you know, I will not look at it sometimes like that, but I understand. So you know, I'm the first person that doesn't, I definitely do not like designations. I want to be able to go with my friend who's a size 0 and I'm a size 16. And I want to be able to go and shop with them and not have to say goodbye and go to the basement or anything like that. So I'm going to stop right here because again, this would be a 3-hour webinar. Just talk about it. So let's go on with, does anybody else want to say anything or just?
Sorry, I just wanted to add something to that as well. And I think that was such a great way of opening the discussion. Milton, thank you for sharing your personal story with the group here on the call. Thank you for being open and vulnerable, but also understanding that this is a safe space and a brave place for discussion like that. I do want to go to the topic that you brought up, which is very underrepresented. You mentioned your 15-year-old son. And when we talk about size diversity, one of the things that I was remiss in this presentation that I should have brought forward, so thank you, Milton, for bringing that up, is we often talk about curve. But the one thing that's affecting men in size diversity, the fastest growing issue facing men is megorexia. So the exact opposite of where you have young men who are within their teenage years or early 20s. Someone like myself, I was 98 pounds up until I was 28 years old. And the most I ever was prior to 30 was 110. And so they have the exact opposite effect of we cannot fit into clothing, period. We either have to buy children's sizes or we have to buy women's jeans or something like that. And having to navigate a store where you're not even in a place that you can shop with your own kind, with your own gender, with your own age, with your own bracket. And you have to actually fully be removed for that is something that we need to look at and address as well. So thank you, Milton, for sharing that story. So sorry.
Go on. No, you go. Go. Your turn. Your turn.
I'm actually going to push into the next question, which is the biggest opportunity for growth within the plus size or curve women's clothing store industry within the US.
We got the answers on the next slide, but we're hoping that somebody might want to say something.
We want to jog the discussion, but the answers are sitting right on the next slide.
On the next slide. Okay, then we'll go to the next slide.
Wonderful. So here, according to that study as well, the primary negative factor affecting this industry is low barriers to entry, while the primary positive factor is a high revenue volatility. So what we're looking at here is that this is actually a statement of predication. This is not something that we actually know. We think that by investing in a new market that we are going to have volatile revenues. And so having such a low barrier of entry is that anybody can actually enter this. Anybody can enter this market. There's no actual certification. There's no actual, I guess you can say, a rubric that people have to pass in order to know. So what we have is we have individuals who are entering this industry without knowledge. Again, going back to our 4 points of how we can make systemic change is looking at actually advancing the careers of those curve individuals so that you can learn from people with the lived experience to understand how you can do this right. So there are numbers of brands that come out there that do things for the plus size or for the curve market, And of course, this is where the stereotype comes, that it is volatile in terms of its revenue because they fail. They don't necessarily use the right team to consult or to actually find out information on how you make things different for that curve market. I know Pam and I had this wonderful discussion about pants for the curve market. And it's not as simple as just saying we're going to make the waist larger. And I'm going to use my hands to actually draw this out, if you don't mind. If you have a body shape this way, and your waist being at this side, just because you made it larger with an elastic waist, something that's not understood is elastic always tries to find itself back to its shape. So if your body goes like this, what's going to happen with that pants? It slowly drops down. And that's what happens. So actually not consulting with curve individuals to understand how it needs to fit their body is the problem, and why people see volatile revenues. And so the next being the biggest opportunity for growth is that the number of adults in the population, especially females, affects demand for plus size women's clothing. In particular, adults between 46 and 64 are a key demographic for curved women's clothing. The number of adults aged 20 to 64 is expected to increase by 2021, representing a potential opportunity for the industry. So that main market that you're looking at, that main target market, whether it is a more senior or seasoned consumer, whether it is a more mid-range consumer, or whether it's a young consumer, we know that that market, everyone pretty much between the age of 20 and 64, is growing and is going to fit within this curve market as well, that you can tap into. So regardless of where your brand is and what your brand identity, there is a market for you in curve.
I'm just going to add
Oh,
so
sorry.
yeah, I'm just going to add just a few things. You know, when Karen brought up in the beginning the work that she did with QVC, we also have the shopping channel here in Toronto, although they changed their name, but I can still see them as the shopping channel. And they honor, and if you want to be a brand, if you want to be an accessory brand or anything, you have to be able to provide for this market, or else you can't be on the shopping channel. And I think that is really, really, really important, because they're taking a look at, not, they don't have separate plus size brands, they have brands that are size inclusive, which is my world. I love the word, I prefer size inclusive than just specifically a plus size brand, but I'm happy that there are plus size brands. But I'm talking about that they acknowledge women and men and individuals as they are, and they believe that this is important. And the first designs that are sold are the larger sizes, are the larger sizes. So there's a reason for that. And that's why, you know, we spoke a lot about clothing, but all of the clothing, we wanted to make sure that all of you as accessory brands understand that you are as important as any brand who provides for this market. I am going to reiterate again what Karen said. This market is beyond loyal. If they find that you are a belt brand that provides belts, and that, you know, provides them in belts now, everybody likes to cinch in their waist. You know, it's a known fact that curved women look smaller if they don't wear if they don't wear muumuus all the time, and they cinch in their waist, and they've got body shaping type. I'm not talking about wearing body shape, never mind, you know what I mean, where the fashion actually shapes their body, and then they use belts. Well, they were, you know what, they want to know that you are an accessory brand that provides for them. And whenever they need a belt that's a different color or a different design, they're going to go directly to you. They're not going to shop around, they're going to go directly to you. And that's what happens with other fashion brands. I know that personally, I have tried 46 pairs of jeans on. 46. I'm at that good number. I realized I'm never going to wear another pair of jeans because I'm tired of it. I can't find a pair of jeans that fit me. So if I found, or when I find, because I'm dedicated, when I find a pair of jeans that fit me, I am going to constantly buy my pants from them. And I am no different than any other curve person. So I hope that we've been able to give you an idea of the importance of this market. Give all of you as an accessory designers and those who are accessory designers and fashion designers the understanding of this market is not going anyplace. It is only going to become bigger, and their voices are going to become louder. So what you're doing as an accessory brand is no different than any apparel brand has to do. So if you provide, even in one or two designs, and you start off that way and you see the way it's working, then that's a good way to do it. But as Dave said, hire somebody, I'm not saying hire us, but hire somebody who understands how you need to do it, so that when you first start off, you're starting off the right way. And you're not taking 3 steps back, 3 steps forward and 10 steps back. This way, you're just taking the steps forward. So I'm going to end with this.
Sorry, Pam, before you do that, I would like to add something. You made an interesting point there. The reason why when we look at this subject, we discuss clothing and accessories together is because when it comes to the fashion industry, especially the luxury fashion industry, what we see is the easiest the easiest point of entry for the curve market to access luxury brands are accessories. We know that the fashion brands are not making anything in their size. We know that they're making them in a size 2, size 4, maybe size 6, 8 at special order, if that. And they're not making for that actual 14 plus, 16 to 18, as Pam had mentioned in the beginning. So the point of entry for this $180 billion market is to get a handbag, is to buy a piece of jewelry, is to get a fragrance, something that is non-sized. And so whether it's a clutch purse or something that doesn't require a waistband, that doesn't require a shoulder strap, that is the entry point into the luxury market. So if we want to actually bring this $180 billion industry to this market, if we want to attract that market to us, the accessories industry is actually the point of entry for them. So, and that's why we look at clothing and accessories together. It's to make that sort of systemic change, but knowing that you are the front runners, you are the leaders in this, and you will be where that market enters from.
And that is a great way to, because we only have 5 minutes, believe it or not, for questions. Yeah. Dave and I said that, we knew, and just very quickly.
We wanted to end 10 minutes ago. Sorry.
Yeah. Just very quickly, this is our next panel discussion. Please join us on June 7th, because we're very excited to continue this talk. Karen, thank you for this opportunity. And you got 5 minutes, I guess, to ask us questions.
Well, I'm gonna, why don't you take down the presentation, and then we'll be able to see some faces. And if anyone has questions, then you can ask. And of course, we have recorded the session for our colleagues and friends who weren't able to make it, which is a bummer, because it's a really important and wonderful topic. And I think you brought up some great points. So we will be sure that it gets shared with many people. So we first and foremost, thank you. But Pam, can I just ask you a question? Did you not just get a very special certification?
I just got a very special certification. I did. I got 2 as it happens. And I got the women-owned business certification, which is a huge one. And I just got certified as a professional in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And so what does that mean exactly? What is that? Is that a degree? What does it mean?
Well, it's not a degree. it would be nice if it was a degree, but it's not a degree. What it is basically a certification that says that I know what I'm talking about. That instead of everybody, the issues are now that everybody and their mother want to start their diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants. Everybody. And not everybody has the 35 years of experience that I do. Not everybody has the amount of street smarts that I do. And I realized that I needed to get certification because it brings you up that next level. But it's basically saying that we are certified, we understand the market, we can work with your workplace, we can work from working with your leadership, your board, we can work in any market. So not necessarily fashion. We can work in any market because the skill sets are the same. Everything that we talked with you today about, you can apply to anywhere. And for us to just answer that question, why it's so important to me, you know, I'm figuring that I got 10 more years. I don't want to be 102 working. I'd like to be sitting on a sun cot at some period of time in the near, you know, 10 years from now. And I realized this is my last kick at the can. And what do I really want to do? And what I really want to do is build the infrastructure for companies to understand that that being diverse is going to be what is necessary during this time. And especially my real sweet spot is accessibility. I have an accessibility issue and I understand accessibility. Like we were talking to Ron once and we were saying about how I can go into a store and I can actually tell you how you are not accessible. You may think you're accessible, but you're not. Your racks are this big. How can a wheelchair get around? All of these areas that nobody really thinks of unless you have to be somebody who's been in a wheelchair trying to make it through these areas. So really proud about this, and thank you for speaking about it. Appreciate that.
Well, congratulations. I think it's
Thank you.
And you know what? If that's makes a difference in some people's lives, it's huge. So
I
congratulations.
want my granddaughter to be able to be proud of her bubby. And that's really important to me. So I got 10 years to do it.
I have a feeling you're already doing it. Does
Oh,
anyone
thanks, Karen.
have questions for Pam or for Dev? Any questions? All right. Well, thank you all again for joining us in time. And what a wonderful presentation. Great ideas, great product ideas, great ways to lay out the business. So I thank you and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
That's right. It's going to be a really interesting conversation because Nick, by the way, Nick Kaplan now they just brought him on for Lord and Taylor. I don't know if he's a president or a VP for Lord and Taylor. He is going to be bringing Lord and Taylor into the digital world because that's coming back. And Gianluca just knows, you want to talk about the plus size market, he gets it. So thank you very much for making this happen. I want to thank Mary Lou Luther for introducing us.
We love Mary Lou. Can't wait to see her.
Yes, we do.
Hopefully
Thank
soon.
you, Bob.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll be in touch with each and every one of you. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you on the 7th.
Take care.